Hi everyone, I'm immigration lawyer John Khosravi. Thank you again for joining us for our weekly Q&A session every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Pacific time, where we take your general questions about U.S. immigration and all the stuff associated with that to answer to the best extent possible in a general educational way, not giving case-specific advice. So we're going to jump into that momentarily as people start to trickle in. We're on LinkedIn, we're on Facebook, we have multiple YouTube pages, on TikTok, a lot of different pages, and we always get a lot of good questions coming, so I enjoy it a lot. If you aren't already subscribed to the various social media pages, please do. We have clips of this where we bring a lot of the key questions people have on the Instagram page, for example, at JQK Law Firm Instagram page. So just get down the questions you have, and a lot of new information and updates from USCIS, from the embassies, are posted there as well. We also, for those watching the live program, as an incentive to join the live program and participate, if you like and subscribe wherever you're watching and comment saying consultation, my wonderful assistant Kayla will every 10 minutes or so we have 3 of them every 10 minutes from 6 to 6:30, will announce a winner to do a private video consultation for 15 minutes and really just kind of jump into your case and see if we give some private time on that. So with that, hey, let's get it started. Hi JQK, I got my green card interview and I was approved right away after received my green card, but no social security number, did not receive any work permits or blah blah. So I applied since last, so generally he got the green card approved. Marlon, regular watcher, congratulations, I'm so happy that it finally worked out. It's been a while. What you have to do now that you got your green card, so the situation is, if you're filing for a green card, usually you mention the paperwork that you want a social security number and eventually it's sent to you. But with COVID and the pandemic, the social security office hasn't been that on top of it to send things on time. So now that you got your green card, you'll get in the mail. Once you have it, wait another 3 weeks and then contact the local social security office and maybe go in person depending on what city you're in, depending on how the lockdown situation is for the pandemic. And when you go there, just say, I want my social security card, I want my number, you bring your ID, you bring your green card, all that kind of stuff. And that way, they'll issue the social security card. But it's a little bit of a mess right now because of the pandemic. Things aren't happening as smoothly as they're supposed to or they used to. Malik asked, timelines for I-751s. Well, I-751 is removal conditions. That's if your marriage is less than 2 years when the green card is issued. You have to file another application after 2 years called Form I-751 to show your relationship is real. Those take anywhere from 4 or 5 months to 2 years on average. The average is so long, it's a 1.5 year time difference. That's why when people ask this question, there's no real good answer. It just depends on whenever they get around to it. Averages, again, 4 or 5 months to 24 months, could go longer. And so there's no real answer, it just depends on when they get around to it. It is not a priority for USCIS. They specifically said the I-751 is not a priority. Their priority is citizenship cases and then marriage cases or green card cases, and then I-751s. Because of that, huge backlogs, unfortunately, but that's that. Hayatul will ask, any information about humanitarian parole visas for Afghanistan? Well, I get about 5 to 10 requests for this emails in my office every day. Unfortunately, the situation in Afghanistan is really bad. My office does not handle these, but humanitarian parole is a special request you could do from the U.S. To be able to be permitted to enter the United States. A lot of those people that they save at the airport who came in entered with humanitarian parole. For it, you need to submit the application form I-131 along with additional documents and send it in. I just don't handle these cases, so I don't like to talk about a case I'm not doing on a regular basis because I don't know the nuances necessarily, but also more importantly, I don't know the information in your case because everything is always case specific. But that's the basics. I'm not optimistic it's going to work, or if it does, it's in a timely manner. But if you have no choice, you have no choice. You got to submit it and hope for the best, and I wish the best for you and your family. Our next question is Iman asks, what's the difference between the dates for filing and final action dates? Well, it's a really important question. You know, first off, there's types of green cards that have lines to them. You know, if you marry a U.S. citizen, there's no backlog, there's no line. You could always get a green card. But if you're in what's called a preference category for family-based, employment-based, or diversity visa lottery, every year there's only a limited number of green cards that could be issued. So let's say there's only, I'm making this number up, there's only 1,000 green cards for, you know, adult children of U.S. citizens issued, and there's, you know, 1,000 people requesting that. Or let's say, I can't remember what number I use. Let's see, there's 1,000 green cards available, but 10,000 people are requesting it. Well, that's going to take 10 years to get through the backlog for that number. And so one thing President Obama did to make things a little bit smoother is, before Obama, there were just final action dates, which is when your place in line comes up, that's when you can start sending in paperwork to the government to begin your paperwork to get the green card, or schedule, essentially begin the paperwork. But President Obama said, okay, we're going to do this dates of filing situation, so you won't be able to get your green card, have an interview until the final action date, but we'll have a date of filing that's a little sooner so you can start submitting your paperwork earlier to get the paperwork out of the way so you could on time get your interview. And if you're in the United States, once you submit the paperwork, you don't necessarily have to maintain status, and you can start requesting a work permit as well. So there's benefits to the final action date if it's permitted to be used. That's a real quick version of it. There's more nuances. The USCIS treats it differently. Every month is different. Backlogs are different. So, and that's just a basic one, but depending on the case, things could be different in the situation. But that's the difference. Date of filing is when you can submit paperwork for the green card stuff to keep going forward. But the final action date is a date where they could actually approve the green card. And so date of filing helps you submit stuff sooner, so the case is smoother, and potentially getting a work permit and adjusting your life in the United States faster, and that's what that's about. 29 Super C, another regular. Hi, Attorney Khosravi. I noticed that the NVC backlog is less than 500,000 or more. Or is that? I mean, I think it's less, but it's still a lot. In July, immigrant visa update. There is no EB-5 visa done in U.S. Embassy in my country. I'm trying to keep the faith. 29 Super C, irregular. I'm sorry, they're not processing. I don't know why they're not processing your country. I haven't heard of anything particular going on there, but that's the situation. They do what they want to do, but hopefully the situation gets better. I'm sorry to hear that, 29 Super C. Paranoid Android, another regular ask. The USCIS website says I can file a form I-140 and it can be paid by credit card only at a Lockbox facility, but the list addresses don't indicate whether it's a Lockbox or it's not. Is it safe to send? Okay, so there's two types of places you usually mail stuff for USCIS, either at a Lockbox or it's at a service center. Service centers, some of them have started accepting credit cards, but not all of them. Primarily it's the Lockbox, and so I-140s are typically submitted to service centers unless you do pre and processing. I'm going to the website right now, USCIS.gov. And looking to see what it is and what's the answer to your question. So I-140, USCIS, attention PO Box, blah, 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 Nebraska Service Center. So I mean, when you look at the mailing address for where you're sending it to, you could figure out if it's a service center or if it's a Lockbox. For example, Form I-140, when you just go on the website for the direct filing addresses, the basics are all, lock boxes. But if you scroll down, it mentions Form I-907, request for premium processing. Premium processing goes to the USCIS Nebraska Service Center, so technically that would not be a lockbox. However, I recall that some service centers are accepting credit cards. I don't keep on top of it because frankly, I don't use credit cards for submitting this. When they allowed credit cards to be used, I used it like 10 or 15 times. 3 or 4 of the cases were returned saying the credit card number was wrong or it didn't go through, this and that, and they're incorrect. I had copies of what I sent, I know it was correct. And seeing the level of mistakes they were making and the risk that could happen with, things being late and creating problems, luckily nothing happened in those cases, that I just stopped and I only use my office checks for paying government filing fees. I do not use credit cards. So people could use it. I don't feel credit cards are safe to send for me as a professional where I have a responsibility. I use checks, but it's up to you. Some people want to use it, some people for whatever reason. So the short of it is I just don't touch credit cards. So whether they can accept it or not doesn't make a difference to me. TikTok fam says, is it true USCIS is waiving interviews for employment-based green cards? For the most part, yes. Historically, they always waived employment-based green card interviews, but now more than ever, they're doing it. Trump wanted to bring it back, but it wasn't feasible, so they took it away. And just this month, I've had 3 different families that are employment-based. The primary person was working, plus their children, their spouse, all got their green cards. So they without an interview. So that's correct. For the most part, employment-based cases do get waivers of the green card interview. TikTok fam asked, my name was wrong on the receipt from USCIS for I-131 instead of the kept L. What should I do? When there's an error on well, first of all, check your form I-131 if you kept a copy to make sure you didn't write it wrong. But you could go to USCIS.gov when there's these kind of typos. And within their system tools, there's a way, there's an option there for you to communicate with USCIS for them to notify them what the error is and what the correction will be, and they'll correct it and then send you a new receipt. It's really important you correct it, because when you do get your advanced parole, I mean your advanced parole, if you apply for your work permit, will come with the work permit, and the correct name will be based on your I-765 form, your EAD form. But nonetheless, you should correct it. Use the online system. It's pretty good to be able to fix that up there. Just go to USCIS.gov and use their system tools. Winnie asks, I filed in June, but I have not received my receipt. How long should I wait? This is too long. So if you filed in June and they still haven't said anything, there's something lost in the system. First, you got to check to see if you submitted payment, like a check, did they cash a check or not? That's a good indicator. You should call them up, let them know the applicant's name, your name, and let them know what's going on, USCIS.gov. Hopefully you get hold of an officer, and you know, maybe there was an error in your case, they're returning it, and just not good, because June, July, August, it's like 3-4 months at this point. There's serious errors, so you want to really look into that. And this is one of the reasons you have a lawyer at the beginning to kind of avoid these kind of things. But I'm sorry to hear that, Winnie, but you need to keep track of that, because it seems like a serious issue that's happening there. Feature Faith asks, I want to ask, with all respect, is being a marijuana user a problem when doing the medical test overseas, knowing that I'll be going to states when it's legal to consume? It is illegal in the United States and all of America. Consuming, possession, selling, buying marijuana is completely illegal, and it is a serious crime. You can get jail time. Now, some states, local states, have made it legalized, but the federal government does not recognize it. It's a full-on bad crime. And immigration laws are federal. So if you are a user of marijuana, then that's something that could cause deportation even. So you shouldn't be doing it. They may test for it at the medical thing. They may ask you marijuana use. You always have to be honest, blah, blah, blah. So there's risks. You shouldn't be doing marijuana. That's all I can say about that topic if you're an immigrant. Now, if you're a U.S. citizen, do what you want to do. It's still a federal crime. They could come after you, but it doesn't seem like they're enforcing it. But if you're an immigrant who's not a citizen, bad news, you just got to stay away from marijuana. Albidu says, good day. After concurrently filing the I-140 premium processing, adjustment of status, EAD, when usually will I get my receipt notice, and what should I expect? So pre-processing has been pretty slow recently. They used to like send your receipt within a few days and email it to you. But right now it's taking like 2 or 3 weeks from what my colleagues are telling me to get the receipts. And so it should really take 2 or 3 weeks. If it doesn't come, when you do premium processing, there's an email address we can email them. There's a special benefit, so you can email them and say, hey, I didn't get my receipts, this is my name, I applied on this day. You probably have a lawyer on the case, or your lawyer should do that if they don't get the receipts in 3 to 4 weeks. And then follow up, see what's going on, so that's what you do. Yas asks, hello sir, I'm a US citizen and preparing to file I-130, it's an I-130, not N-130, application for my parents. Their marriage certificate is 30-40 years old and is the native language. That's fine, just gotta get it translated, that should be fine. Their last name of mother is incorrect in that marriage certificate. Well, that's not good. I'd have to see it. You might have to make a correction, explain what happened. That creates some problems. Question is, when I get the translation to English, shall I keep the same incorrect name or have it changed to correct last name as it was on the passport? I don't know. I have to see it for myself. The translation itself has to be exact to what the document is. But you know, maybe if the marriage certificate is incorrect, you contact the local jurisdiction where they're married to issue a correction, and then you know, put it together. I have to see how bad it is, so it's something I have to analyze myself. You know, you got to make sure you deal with this properly to avoid really stuff being messed up. Ahimi follows up, I-140 base EAD expiring in January 12th. I need to send for renewal. Does it count 180 days from the filing, or will my original expire to keep? So if you have a work permit, an EAD, employment authorization document based on adjustment of status, a green card case, if you timely file for renewal, you automatically get, I think it's 140 or 180 days, something like that, extension of the work permit from the date of expiration. Plus, right now they're issuing the new work permits or renewals or new ones for 2 years. So that'll be able to hold you over for a while. But the extension is from the expiration, plus the receipt notice you get will list how many days it is. I can't remember exactly how much right now. I can't remember if it's 4 months or 5 months or 6 months, but that'll hold you over. Ali asked, John, my original receipt for the I-130A was stolen along with my luggage. What do I do? The receipts don't really matter, so as long as you have your receipt number, it's fine. You can always contact USCIS to reissue another one, but the receipt notices don't matter for cases. I scan them and throw away, so it doesn't matter. Just what does National Benefit Center do and what does National Visa Center do? Okay, that's a good question. So the National Benefit Center, NBC, it does an initial analysis primarily of adjustment of status cases to make sure all the basic documents are there. Then once done, they send it to the local field offices who will do a final decision on the green card case, many times doing an interview. The National Visa Center kind of does a similar thing, also known as the NVC. They accumulate the initial documents for green card cases to make sure they're all there, and then once complete, they send the case to the local embassy where the person is going to do their interview overseas, and then they, whenever they're open, they'll schedule an interview time. So essentially both of them do the same function, except the National Visa Center, National Benefit Center is part of the USCIS, and they work with the field offices that do interviews. And the National Visa Center is part of the Department of State, and they work with the embassies for them to schedule interviews. Their counterparts in different government agencies or departments that handle cases within the U.S. or outside the U.S. That's a good question. I never thought about that they do the same thing, but for different departments. But that's essentially what happens. Thank you for your question. So, this question and issue about timelines is something that's very serious. The Government Accountability Office, the GAO, just did a big report. I'm going to read it and do a podcast on it. If you follow the Immigration Lawyers podcast, you see I do a lot of these reviews of this stuff. It's a podcast primarily for professionals in the immigration field, but if you're interested, you can listen to it. Just go to wherever your podcasts are found, type in Immigration Lawyers podcast. But the essence, GAO is saying, what the hell is going on? USCIS timelines are out of control. And that's just that. So when you ask why things are taking this long, there's a lot of cases going, there's a lot of turnover, USCIS employees not staying. Every time you bring a new person in, it takes a while to learn this stuff. I'm a professor of immigration law. I've taught at 2 law schools. I have a private training course for lawyers. I have a magazine I publish, a trade magazine called the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox Magazine. And all I do all day is study and think about immigration law and talk to lawyers about it. And although I'm considered an expert in the field, I still don't know half of it. It's that complicated. And so how are you going to have somebody just come on board and the courses they have are like 4 weeks and then expect them to be able to handle this stuff really quick and easy and that kind of stuff? So it's a really difficult game. Immigration laws are super complicated, and that's why it's better to have a lawyer, because you might have a government officer that doesn't know what they're doing because it's so hard, it's just complicated. And I study this stuff all day and it's still new stuff every day is popping up. And so this is the problems that happen in the system that's too complicated, and with a bureaucracy that's completely messed up internally, employees completely dissatisfied. They do reports of satisfaction of government employees, and the Department of Homeland Security, particularly USCIS, is one of the most unsatisfied employee base of all the agencies within all the federal government, and they got a lot of employees, millions of employees. And it's just not run well, a lot of issues going on, and so that leads to people, the customers, being really hurt like this and frustrated, and it's just how it is. Antij asks, I did my biometrics for TPS in the past, now biometrics waive for adjustment of status EB3. If they want to, they will, it just depends on USCIS. You applied last month, is that a positive thing, and will it help, will it help to move the case faster? Right now, NVC. No, I don't think it'll help move the case faster. Your EB3 is going to be based on your priority date and stuff like that. Hopefully they'll have it in, but we'll see. A bigger issue is whether you've been maintaining valid status for the purposes of adjustment of status. So I hope you had an immigration attorney talk with you to go over your case history of the U.S., your lawful entry, if you had any gaps in coverage and all that kind of stuff to make sure that's not a problem. But the biometrics is not going to really be a factor in how fast your case is going to move. 29 Super C asks, there's also trouble in the issuing of DV 2021 visas in countries outside the United States. Deadline is supposed to be September 30, 2021. So diversity, thank you 29 Super C. The diversity visa lottery, for those who win the green card lottery, they have to have their case approved before the end of September, which is coming up really soon. And because the embassies are not processing cases, a lot of people who won the green card lottery are going to lose out, unfortunately. There's lawsuits about this, so there's some stuff happening there. I'm not following it closely myself, but a lot of people are going to get hurt on these delays. On my I-130, my class of admission was incorrect. Is this a big issue, and how do I fix it? Well, you can just contact USCIS. Probably write them a letter, say class admission was incorrect. It doesn't really matter because they have the class of admission, they know it internally, but yeah, you can notify them by mail, it's not a big deal. As long as you're admitted lawfully, kind of thing. Until next week, everyone, we'll be back 5 p.m. Pacific time, 6 p.m., I'm sorry, 6 p.m. Pacific time. Used to be 5 p.m., now it's 6 p.m. Take your questions live. Until then, God bless, be safe, bye-bye. I hope you enjoyed this educational video. We have a second channel with much more information as well at JQK Immigration Clips. Please check that out. Also, you'll find our social media site has a lot more videos, images, and information about the U.S. immigration process. Please check those out on the various social media websites.